how to ignore the noise and live your life. The world today hums with sound, not the kind of sound that comes from the wind brushing through trees, or the rain tapping gently on your window, or the laughter of a child playing outside, but a heavier kind of sound. The endless buzz of opinions, expectations, judgments, comparisons, and demands that never seem to end. It's a world that talks too much and listens too little. Some days you wake up and feel that weight pressing on your mind even before you rise. The phone lights up, voices rise, notifications spill over, each one asking for your attention, your agreement, your participation. Everyone seems to have an opinion on how you should live, who you should be, and what success should look like. And yet, beneath all that noise, a quiet voice waits. It's your own, gentle, honest, but often buried under the chaos of the world. Learning to ignore the noise and live your life isn't about shutting people out. It's about returning home to yourself. Point 1. The nature of noise is not always loud. Sometimes it hides behind politeness, advice, or comparison. It's the subtle whisper that says, "You're falling behind." It's the uncomfortable feeling when you see others moving faster, shining brighter, achieving more. It's the constant tug to perform, to prove, to please. Did I end this sense? Noise is not just external, it's internal too. The loudest distractions are often the ones we carry in our own minds. Insecurity, fear, the need for approval. The world outside only amplifies what already lives within. When you begin to notice the noise, you see how much of life is built on illusion. How much of what we call pressure is simply the echo of expectation. You see how people live for applause that fades, how they chase validation from strangers who are themselves lost in the same chase. Noise is contagious. But silence is too, the kind of silence that comes not from emptiness, but from peace. You have to choose which one you let define your days. Point 2. The inner compass to ignore the noise. You must first know where you're going. You cannot silence the world if you don't know what your own heart is speaking. There comes a point in every life when you must ask yourself the hardest question of all. What do I really want? Not what looks impressive, not what others expect, not what will make you seem successful, but what truly matters to you. That question takes courage because it strips away illusion. It forces you to face the truth. Perhaps you've been running in the wrong direction, chasing a life that doesn't belong to you. When you answer honestly, you start to build an inner compass. A quiet certainty that doesn't depend on applause or agreement. Once that compass is set, the world can scream and you'll still walk straight. Your compass might lead you somewhere smaller, simpler, or slower than what the world values, and that's okay. Meaning is not measured in volume or visibility. Sometimes, the richest lives are the quietest ones. Point 3. Detachment from the crowd. You don't have to hate the world to detach from it. Detachment is not rejection, it's clarity. It's the choice to engage without losing yourself. You can scroll through the noise and not drown in it. You can listen to opinions and still make your own decisions. You can love people without absorbing their fears. The Stoics, those quiet masters of emotional discipline, taught that the world will always swirl with chaos, but your peace is your responsibility. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." That's the essence of ignoring the noise, not escaping it, but mastering your response. When you stop reacting to every ripple around you, something shifts. You begin to feel your own stillness. You stop living in the theater of other people's expectations and start living on your own stage. Point 4. The illusion of comparison is one of the most persistent noises in life. It hides in every corner of modern existence: social media, work, relationships, even spirituality. You look at someone else's chapter and forget that your story has its own rhythm. You see someone succeed, and you forget that their sunrise doesn't dim yours. You see someone happy and assume you're doing something wrong. But life isn't a race. It's a river, each current moving at its own pace, carrying its own story. The tragedy of comparison is that it blinds you to your own beauty. It makes you chase someone else's reflection instead of discovering your own. When you compare, you live outside yourself. When you focus inward, you return home. The moment you realize that someone else's success doesn't reduce your own potential, that's the day you step into freedom. Point 5. The power of stillness is not laziness. It's power contained. It's the ability to pause, breathe, and respond rather than react. In stillness, you learn that not every voice deserves your attention, and not every battle deserves your energy. You learn to choose your reactions the way an artist chooses colors, with care, intention, and purpose. Meditation, quiet walks, journaling, prayer, these are not luxuries for the spiritual elite. They are the tools that keep you grounded when the noise becomes unbearable. You may not be able to control the noise around you, but you can create peace within you. That's what stillness teaches. That silence is not empty, it's full of answers. The more time you spend in it, the more you start to hear your own soul again. Point 6. The courage to be misunderstood. Living your life according to your own truth means accepting a difficult reality. You will be misunderstood. Not everyone will applaud your choices. Some will question them, others will mock them. That's the price of authenticity, and the reward is freedom. You cannot build a meaningful life while trying to satisfy every opinion. There's a point where you must stop explaining yourself. Let people misunderstand you. Let them form stories. You owe the world your integrity, not your compliance. When you no longer fear judgment, your life becomes your own. You start to move differently, with quiet confidence, with peace in your step, with clarity in your eyes. Remember, even the great thinkers, prophets, and artists were ridiculed in their time. But they didn't stop. They didn't lower their light to make others comfortable. Neither should you. Point 7. Boundaries as acts of love. Sometimes ignoring the noise means walking away, not because you hate anyone, but because you love your peace more. Boundaries are not walls. They're doors you open only to those who respect your space. You don't owe constant access to people who drain you, nor do you owe explanations for prioritizing your well-being. Learn to say no softly, clearly, firmly. The world may call it selfishness, but in truth, it's self-respect. You cannot pour from an empty cup, and you cannot hear your soul in a room that never stops talking. Protect your quiet. Protect your time. Protect your energy. Those are your most sacred currencies. 8. Meaning over noise. Noise thrives in emptiness. When life lacks purpose, distractions fill the void. That's why one of the best ways to silence the noise is to fill your days with meaning. Do work that matters. Not necessarily work that's glamorous, but work that feels true. Help someone. Create something. Learn.
Grow.
Serve. Purpose acts like an anchor. When you're anchored in something that matters, storms may rage, but you remain steady. Even simple acts, cooking a meal with presence, caring for your home, planting a tree, writing a thought, become meaningful when done with awareness. It's not the size of your contribution that matters. It's the sincerity of it. Point 9. Finding solitude in a crowded world. Solitude is not loneliness, it's companionship with your own soul. When you learn to be alone without being lonely, you unlock something sacred. You discover that you don't need constant noise to feel alive. You start to enjoy your own company, your own thoughts, your own growth. The more comfortable you are in your solitude, the less the world can control you. You become self-sufficient in peace. Solitude is where ideas are born, where wounds heal, where identity roots itself. Every great transformation begins in silence. Not in the spotlight, but in the quiet space where you finally meet yourself. Point 10. Gratitude as grounding. Noise distracts you from what you have. Gratitude returns you to it. Every morning, you can choose to focus on what's missing or what's present. The difference determines the tone of your day. Gratitude doesn't ignore pain. It just refuses to let pain become the whole story. When you start to notice the small things, sunlight on your face, laughter, kindness, breath, the noise loses its volume. You begin to see that peace isn't found in perfection, but in appreciation. Gratitude brings you into the now, and the now is always quieter than yesterday or tomorrow. Point 11. Living without performing. So much of modern life is performance. Curated images, practice smiles, the need to appear fine. But to live truly is to drop the mask. You don't need to be perfect to be worthy. You don't need to be impressive to be enough. You just need to be real. When you stop performing, you reconnect with your humanity. You start to see that vulnerability isn't weakness, it's honesty. And honesty is freedom. You stop saying yes when your heart means no. You stop pretending to be busy to feel important. You start choosing depth over display. This is how you begin to live your life, not just survive at point 12. The role of faith and philosophy. Faith, whether spiritual or philosophical, gives shape to silence. It reminds you that there is something greater than your worries, something deeper than the noise. The Stoics called it nature. Others call it God, the universe, or spirit. Whatever name you give it, it's the awareness that life is unfolding with a rhythm beyond your control. You learn to trust, to surrender what you can't change, to act with virtue, and accept the rest. That trust is liberating. You realize that not everything requires your reaction, that peace is not a reward but a choice. When you walk through life with faith, noise becomes just wind, passing, never permanent. Point 13. The beauty of slowness. The world glorifies speed, fast results, instant fame, immediate gratification. But real life unfolds slowly. Growth takes time. Healing takes patience. If you move too fast, you miss the sacred details, the subtle lessons that only appear when you pause. Ignoring the noise means learning to slow down, to taste your coffee, to watch the sunset without photographing it, to have conversations without checking your phone. In slowness, you rediscover wonder. You start to see life not as a checklist, but as a series of moments meant to be lived, not rushed. Point 14. The quiet strength of inner peace. Peace is not the absence of chaos. It's the ability to remain calm within it. It's standing in the storm and knowing that you will not break. When you master peace, you no longer need to prove anything. You no longer chase or run. You move through life with quiet strength, steady, grounded, radiant from within. The world might still be loud, but you'll notice that it no longer disturbs you. You'll watch people argue and feel compassion instead of frustration. You'll see trends rise and fall and feel no urge to follow. You'll recognize that what truly matters has always been simple: truth, kindness, purpose, and love. Point 15. Living as an example, not a reaction. When you finally find your stillness, you become the example others didn't know they needed. You start to show through your calm that there's another way to exist, one not driven by fear, envy, or approval, but by meaning. People might ask, how do you stay so peaceful? And your answer will be simple: because I stopped listening to the noise. Your calm becomes contagious. Your peace becomes strength for others. That's the beauty of quiet living. You inspire not through noise, but through presence. Point 16. The return home. At some point, life brings you back to where you began, to yourself. You realize that all along, you weren't trying to find success, or love, or purpose. You were trying to find peace. And that peace was never out there. It was inside you, waiting beneath the layers of noise. You begin to understand that the journey was never about becoming someone new, but about remembering who you already are. You stop needing to be seen and start needing to be. Point 17. A final reflection. So, here's the truth. Ignoring the noise is not about indifference. It's about mastery. It's not withdrawal. It's awakening. When you choose silence over reaction, depth over distraction, meaning over noise, you are reclaiming your life. You are telling the world, I am no longer available for anything that steals my peace. And that is not arrogance. It is wisdom. Live your life, not as a performance, but as a prayer. Walk softly, speak kindly, love deeply, and stay rooted in what is real. Let the world keep spinning. You are not here to chase it. You are here to experience, grow, and be at peace in the midst of it all. The noise will never stop, but you will rise above it, not because the world got quieter, but because you did.